Go ahead and start the VOD. There we go. Okay, go ahead and close out of that. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, hello. I hope we're all having a good day. Hello, hello. Welcome to Dino Class. Hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in. I got some new models today. So you're going to be seeing a lot of new models. I got this one. I got Ichthyovenator. I got Caprasukis. I finally went and picked up that Lambeosaurus model. But hello, hello. Yes, Dino Time. Hello, welcome in, welcome in. So I went ahead and got the Megaraptor out because Megaraptors are really weird and interesting. And I go ahead and like start today's class off with this topic. But Megaraptors aren't raptors. I've talked about this a few times before, but I'll say it again. The paleontologists who initially discovered Megaraptors thought that the hand was actually a foot, and on the hand there is a singularly raised claw, so it looks a lot like, you see that how on one finger it has like the really big claw. So they thought it was a raptor. By the time they figured out that it wasn't, it was already too late, and it had already been like described with that name. So yeah, could 100 men beat 1 to 5 no, absolutely not. But hi teacher, love your classes. Well, I appreciate it. Welcome in, everyone. Actually, hold on. Let me switch out to my... Yeah, hold on. Yeah. Spinosaur representation. There we go. Hello. This is Ichthyovenator. I put on this skin because I thought it was very pretty, but I'm realizing how strange it looks. Let's, we can stick with Marsh for now. Marsh is nice. Nice and realistic. But yeah. Love that model. Well, thank you. Yeah, opinions on mosquitoes. Okay, I live in the South, so mosquitoes are the bane of my existence, especially right now, because the mesh on my window is broken and I have to get that replaced. So I occasionally get mosquitoes in my room and it sucks. They're okay though. Are you in VRC dinos? I am. Some favorite things about Allosaurus. Allosaurus is pretty neat. There are currently 4 recognized species of Allosaurus. There is Fragilis, Jimenense, Europaeus, and Anax. Anax is a little bit of a controversial one, but it is currently recognized. These guys were probably the most successful genera of theropod in the late Jurassic, as you find them, you especially find Allosaurus fragilis everywhere. Maybe not maybe everywhere is a bit much, but you do find Allosaurus fragilis in very high numbers, like very high and unusual numbers. So it was a very successful theropod of the late Jurassic. There used to be a theory, because like they have a bite force equivalent to that of a lion, which is really weird because it's like 9 times the size of a lion, probably bigger. I'm not great at math. So there was like this theory called the hatchet bite theory, where they would like open their mouth super wide, and here, hold on. So they'd open their mouth super wide and they just slam the top of their jaw onto it, and that was called the hatchet bite theory. And then paleontologists realized, oh hey, if they did that, they're going to break their face. So they probably were not doing that. Yeah, peanut primates, they're really cool. Are birds actually dinosaurs? Yes! Birds are theropod dinosaurs from... What was that? I don't remember who that is. Birds are theropods from... birds derived from dinosaurs, and they splinter off in the mid-Jurassic. And so the lineage that gives us birds is actually older than T-Rex, by the way. Fun fact. But yes, birds phylogenetically are dinosaurs. They are theropod dinosaurs, much like raptors, tyrannosaurs, and like things like this. Ichthyovenator, which is a spinosaurid, it is a theropod. They are closer to some theropods than they are to others. They are specifically closest to things like the troodontids, the dromaeosaurids, and stuff like that. And phylogenetically, that means birds are both dinosaurs, they are archosaurs, and birds are also reptiles. Yes, birds are reptiles because phylogenetics classifies on ancestry and not physical characteristics. Physical characteristics come from the Linnaean system of taxonomy, which is probably what you were taught when you were in school. Linnaean system of taxonomy works fine as long as you're not going into the past, right? If you're talking about modern animals, it's fine, right? But if you start going back in time, looking at like family trees, evolutionary brackets, and all that stuff, then it gets really confusing. So yeah. Oxalia opinion. I don't think there's enough material from Oxalia for me to have an opinion. It's a really cool Spinosaurid. I don't think there's enough of it for me to really have an opinion because we know so little about Oxalia that it makes Spinosaurus look complete. Give me 1 second. Thank you. I'm pretty sure that's Morse code, but thank you, I love, for the roses. Thank you, One Silly Goose, for the heart me. Thank you, Glitch, for the heart me. And thank you, Amari, for the 16 tiny dinies. I appreciate it. Was the Irritator a Spinosaurid? Yes, Irritator is a it is a Spinosaurid from South America, specifically Brazil. It was named Irritator because the specimen, or like the Irritator material, was smuggled out of Brazil and into the United States, and the people who were smuggling it or selling it thought that the material wasn't good enough to sell on its own, so they decided they were going to add a whole bunch of like stuff to it. So they were like going to glue rocks onto it and all of that stuff. So when paleontologists finally got their hands on it, it was really hard to figure out what had been glued on and what was original material. So they called it Irritator because it was irritating to put together. So yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for the 2 friends. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Fluxury, for the 3 tiny dinies. I appreciate it. Yeah. What's bigger than Dreadnoughtus? There's a few dinosaurs that might be bigger than Dreadnoughtus. So, when it comes to like the biggest dinosaur, right? And to be okay, a little bit of context here. When people talk about big in terms of dinosaurs, 8 to 9 times out of 10, they're going to be talking about weight. Now, I got asked a while ago why weight was going to be the major factor for big, and I couldn't give a straight answer then, but I can give you an answer now. When discussing the sizes of animals, especially dinosaurs, dinosaurs are wildly diverse in terms of shape, right? So you could say, for example, you could say that T-Rex is taller than some sauropods, but you would be losing a lot of context because those sauropods might be heavier and or longer than T-Rex as well. So judging size based off of weight a majority of the time is what makes the most sense. Now, in terms of weight, there are a few frontrunners for largest dinosaur or heaviest dinosaur. Dreadnoughtus is one of them. There's also Argentinosaurus, Patagotitan, Brachiosaurus, and a handful of other ones. Now, why are there so many? Why do we not have a definitive answer? Well, it's because some of the biggest dinosaurs we know of, like Argentinosaurus and Patagotitan and Dreadnoughtus and all of them, a lot of them are fragmentary, and it's really hard to get really good weight estimations for animals that are fragmentary because you're mostly filling in blanks here. So yeah, as of right now, the safest answer for largest dinosaur is probably Argentinosaurus, but if you say Patagotitan, Dreadnoughtus, Brachiosaurus, I don't think anyone will directly disagree with you. It's just kind of up in the air right now. But yeah. Oh, you changed dinos? I did! Thank you, Maddie, for the 3 roses. I appreciate it. But yeah. Are there any dinosaurs that could fly, not including pterosaurs? Pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. Pterosaurs are their own lineage. They're more closely related to dinosaurs than crocodilians are, but they themselves are not dinosaurs. And yes, there are plenty of dinosaurs that can fly. Go look outside. They're called birds. Birds are living dinosaurs. They are theropod dinosaurs that have lived into the modern day. There are plenty of bird-like dinosaurs that could also fly. Obviously, there's a debate to be had over Microraptor's ability to have powered flight. We know it could glide. There's a few other animals that are being debated about that. You have things like Archaeopteryx, Anchiornis, stuff like that that could possibly have flown, but are kind of up in the air on whether or not they had powered flight. You know? Yeah. Chicken or the egg? The egg. If okay, so there's several ways that you can think of the chicken or the egg question, which is, do you mean egg as a structure or egg as in chicken egg? If you mean egg as in structure, it's the egg. If you mean chicken egg, it's the chicken egg. It just so happens that the first chicken egg ever laid was not laid by something that was itself a chicken, right? Because a chicken egg is defined by the fact that a chicken comes out of it. So there you go. That's your answer. Favorite dinosaur, mine is Giganotosaurus or Giganotosaurus. That is a great pick. Thank you, Dana Schroeder for the heart me. Thank you, Fluxury, again for the tiny dinies. And thank you, Ellie King or El King, for the rose. My favorite dinosaur of all time, and I've talked about it in class before, is Nanooksaurus hoglundi, or Hoglundi, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It is a tyrannosaurid from northern Alaska that is dated to somewhere around 70 to 66 million years ago. It was on the smaller end, but was likely, it was smaller than Daspletosaurus, Gorgosaurus, and Albertosaurus, but is possibly somewhat, comparable in size to them, but likely smaller on average. Now, we don't actually have a whole lot of material from Nanooksaurus. We actually have just a lower mandible, part of the snout, back of the skull, and I think a rib. But we have enough material to know that it is a tyrannosaur. Because the lower mandibles of tyrannosaurs are a very particular shape, so it's very easy to see. It's like, oh, okay, this is definitely like a tyrannosaur jaw here. So most of the time when Nanooksaurus is reconstructed, they use other tyrannosaurs as reference. This is a process called phylogenetic bracketing. You have enough of an animal to know what it's closely related to, but so you infer from those other animals that it's closest in relation to. For example, my profile picture is the skull of Nanooksaurus. There exists no complete skull of Nanooksaurus. So when I was making it with my artist friend Vix, we took a look at the skulls of T-Rex and Tarbosaurus because we know enough about Nanooksaurus to know that it was actually part of the tribe of Tyrannosaurinae, which are the closest tyrannosaurs to T-Rex itself. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Are chickens dinosaurs? Yes, they are. Talk about my favorite dinosaur, Parasaurolophus. Parasaurolophus is really cool. And if you watched my dinosaur short stories, I have some good news. I'm making a video right now with a Parasaurolophus. But they are really cool. They lived in the late Cretaceous, roughly, what was it, 77 to 75 million years ago. You find that I think there's two species of them. There is Walkeri, which is the most commonly depicted Parasaurolophus, and there's Crichristonatus or something. That one has always tripped me up with its name, but that's the one that has the shorter the shorter crest. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, they lived in North America during the late Cretaceous. They would have had natural predators such as Daspletosaurus and Gorgosaurus. Those two actually coexisting with one another, which is pretty neat in my opinion. They would have also been living alongside a lot of other hadrosaurs at the time, such as Lambeosaurus, Corythosaurus, and all of those guys, as well as Anodontosaurus up in the Dinosaur Park Formation. So yeah. Opinion on T-Rex. I think T-Rex is awesome. And let me tell you, man, I understand people's frustration with how often T-Rex is portrayed in media, but man, it's kind of deserving of it because that thing was insane. You're talking about an animal who the average weight is going to be somewhere between 8 to 10 tons, and it has a bite force that on the lower end could crush a car. And on top of that, it's an ambush predator. it's insane. It's a crazy animal. Also, they were surprisingly intelligent, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that in there. There's a good chance tyrannosaurs were smarter than your average raptor, or at least T-Rex was smarter. It, like, using Velociraptor as a reference here, obviously, but you know, all that stuff. It's really cool. But yeah, is Spider-Man a dinosaur? Isn't there a universe where he is a dinosaur? What is the oldest dinosaur or the chicken? The oldest dinosaur that we have, or that paleontologists have discovered on a geological standpoint, is Nyanosaurus. Nyanosaurus is possibly one of the earliest dinosaurs that we have ever discovered. We as in like a collective species, I mean. The oldest dinosaur that we have known about was Megalosaurus, that was found all the way back in 1824. Now, it's likely that that was not the first time we had ever come across dinosaur fossils, and stuff like that, but that was the first dinosaur that was ever recognized by science, and was actually given a taxonomic status and all of that jazz. So yeah. How long do you think non-avian dinosaurs survived after the initial impact? That is a great question. So the thing about the impact is that it didn't kill everything at once, right? There is no, it wasn't like boom, everything's dead, right? It was like everything at the initial impact. Yes, those things got vaporized, right? If it was standing close enough to the initial impact in the Yucatan Peninsula, it just got vaporized. Anything further away in South America and North America, what you usually don't hear is almost everything in the closer proximities of North America and South America probably went deaf, because that was a super loud impact, right? So more than likely, most of the animals in North America and South America just went deaf like that. Like they lost their hearing almost immediately. But after that, you would have several weeks to months where everything just slowly gets choked out because you have all this ash and soot in the air and it's blocking out the sun. All the plants die. The things eating the plants die. The things eating the things that are eating the plants die. So your large carnivores, herbivores, and stuff like that. In terms of the animals, like the non-avian dinosaurs that could have survived the longest, you would have had smaller dromaeosaurs and stuff like that. These would be mostly your scavengers, but these would probably not make it very long either. So I'd give it maybe 2 years. 2 years at most, maybe. Can we get a roar? I can give you a roar. Hold on. There you go. Give me one. I'm just realizing that I have let me catch up with donos. Thank you, Cryostus, for the tiny diny. Thank you, Ellie King, for all the roses. Thank you, Sarah, for the bubblegum. Thank you, Ellie King, again for the rose. And thank you, Donna Shredder, for the tiny dinies. I appreciate it. Do you believe crocodiles or alligators are dinosaurs? No, because they're not. Crocodiles and alligators, or I guess true crocodilians, first show up in the late Cretaceous. Now, you have probably often heard the saying that crocodiles are older than trees. And you've probably also heard the statement of like sharks have been around since like the very beginning, okay? Let me kind of give some context to that. True crocodilians, which are the ones that we have today, like crocodiles, alligators, caimans, gharials, all of those guys first appear in the late Cretaceous. The lineage that would eventually give us those crocodilians, or what we call crocodiliforms before they were true crocodilians, or crocodilomorphs, you can call them whichever, that is the lineage that is like older than trees. Now, crocodilians are archosaurs, but they are not dinosaurs. Archosaurs are a collective. There's a lot of different archosaurs. You have pseudotsuchians, the crocodilians, the dinosaurs, the pterosaurs. And today, archosaurs are survived by true crocodilians and birds. Everything else from like ichthyosaur, or well, maybe not them, but like things like mosasaurs, like the marine reptiles, those are squamites. Mosasaurs are actually just straight up lizards. Dinosaurs aren't lizards. Mosasaurs are lizards. They're just straight up lizards. But yeah. How can you not be defending Super Earth right now? Hey, I put my hours in last night, all right? And last I checked, it was liberated. All right? I've earned my break. Anyway. Favorite dinosaur? Nanosaurus hoglundi. What's up, Spinosaurus? I take offense to that. I am not Spinosaurus. I am Ichthyovenator. I am one of the smallest Spinosaurids to ever exist. Thank you very much. I do get confused from my cousin, though. If you'll check out the hump on this guy, it's super strange. But Ichthyovenator is really cool, though. Yeah. Do I believe birds are dinosaurs? Yes, because they are. Birds are derived from theropod dinosaurs. That lineage splits off from the non-avian dinosaurs somewhere in the Jurassic and gives rise to what we refer to as modern birds. Now, if you think birds being dinosaurs and by extension birds being reptiles is strange, oh boy, wait till you hear about opposite birds, because that's also a thing. Do you know about opposite birds? They're very strange. They look a lot like modern birds, but they show up before modern birds do and have similar traits to modern birds. We're talking about toothless beaks, stuff like that, and all of that stuff, but they are morphologically have different internal anatomy. Their shoulders are set further back from what I understand. And I think they kept their, not like all of their bony tails, but a lot of them had like little stubs where their tail was. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Opinion on the Indominus Rex? What, that thing? Okay, Indominus Rex, from an anatomical standpoint, makes no sense. Do you understand how much pain that animal is going to be in? Like, realistically, that thing should not have survived. It has the wrong teeth. Those are going to fall out in an instant. The bite force is going to be weakened because of the enlarged arms. I know that sounds weird, but trust me, like when it comes down to like theropod muscle structures and like where they attach, it's very odd. But like having larger arms actually hampers bite force. Not to mention that the bite would have been either way ineffective because it has crocodile teeth, and those are going to fall out. Because guess what? Crocodiles can only have teeth like that because they're sitting in water all the time. And they've got water brushing past their teeth. You know what the Indominus Rex has? Air. You know what air does to exposed teeth? Not good things, I can tell you that. But yeah. Herbivores would actually be more dangerous than carnivores, probably? Yes, more than likely. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Herbivores are more likely to be dangerous to you than a carnivore is, right? So think about it like this. A carnivore, if it is well fed, it's not gonna do anything, right? Unless you like specifically, if you get into its territory, if you are like near its kids, if you're doing that stuff, then yes, a carnivore will mess you up, all right? Herbivores, on the other hand, but usually carnivores don't, like, if they're well fed, they're not going to risk injury by going after you. Herbivores, on the other hand, do not need an excuse to go after you. Because guess what? Herbivores are constantly on edge. Because guess what? There are things in the woods that want to eat them. And when you are living with things that want to eat you constantly, you're going to be on edge constantly. They do not need a reason to mess you up. Simply making eye contact with you is enough. But yeah. Anyway, they talk now? Yeah, we talk now. But yeah. Why did birds survive? Birds survived, because of seeds. Or at least this is one of the leading theories, right? So, seeds are capable of remaining dormant in the ground for very long, prolonged periods of time, okay? And when you have birds, you know what most of the birds that were around during the KT extinction event did not actually survive. But the ones who did survive the KT extinction event, you know what they all have in common? They're toothless birds. They don't have teeth. And they were about the size of sparrows. These were like sparrow, blue jay, cardinal-sized birds. And you know what they eat? They eat seeds. So those seeds remain dormant in the ground, and the birds can swoop down, eat those, and there you go. Rodents would be surviving off of similar stuff, as well as also like the carcasses of barbecued dinosaurs, if you wanted to help yourself. But yeah. Oh boy, let me catch up with chat. Or with the thank you Jonesy's for the heart me. Thank you Shadzi for the tiny diny. Thank you Dino Nerd for all of those gifts, the heart me, the roses, and the tiny diny. Thank you CJ for the heart me. Thank you Dino Nerd again for the rose, and thank you CJ for subscribing. Thank you so much. All right, could you beat a T-Rex? No, I'd lose a fight to a raccoon. I've said this before on stream. I would lose a fight to a raccoon. You think I can fight a multi-ton apex predator? No thanks. I'm good. What's the one scene in Ice Age from Sid? He's like, no thanks. I choose life. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, no, I'm gone. Absolutely. I'm out. Yeah. So we didn't coexist with dinos like an ark. Nope, absolutely not. Non-avian dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago at the KTPG extinction event that ended the Cretaceous. The only dinosaurs we as humans have ever interacted with have been birds. These are like your falcons, your hawks, your eagles, your sparrows, your cardinals, your blue jays, penguins, ostriches, emus, cassowaries, the elephant bird, the moa, stuff like that. Fun fact, the closest dinosaurs ever got to being fully aquatic, because none of the marine reptiles from the Mesozoic are dinosaurs, by the way. The closest dinosaurs have ever gotten to becoming fully aquatic, penguins. I'm not kidding. Penguins are birds. That makes them dinosaurs. They're the closest we've ever gotten. Yeah, opinion on Ankylosaurus? Pretty cool. The fact that birds are dinosaurs is so freaking cool to me. Yes, it's awesome. But yeah, what were dinosaurs evolved from? So dinosaurs are archosaurs. So all archosaurs can be traced back to kind of the last common ancestor of them. I believe there is a Archosaurus, which is what the group of archosaurs is named after. But what I was talking about earlier with like one of the earliest dinosaurs from a geological standpoint, which is Naiadosaurus, there are some people who believe that Naiadosaurus might be the last common ancestor of all dinosaurs. Now, is that true? Up for debate. Naiadosaurus does have a lot of traits that you would see later on in a lot of other dinosaurs. Now, the likelihood that we will ever find the true last common ancestor of all dinosaurs is highly unlikely. The odds of fossilization are so low. And not to mention that certain climatic changes can interrupt that process, right? So, for example, there were dinosaur fossils when there were still dinosaurs around, right? So if you go to the late Cretaceous, guess what? You're probably going to be able to go and find the fossils of Stegosaurus, right? Because that's just how that works. And dinosaurs were on Earth for a very, very long time. But if you go out and you find a Stegosaurus fossil and you're in the late Cretaceous, there's a good chance that if you come back to the modern day, guess what? That Stegosaurus fossil might not exist because continents drift, earthquakes happen, landslides can happen, stuff can bury it, stuff can crush it, stuff can just completely disintegrate it if it's like in the open air, and it's yeah, but yeah. What did Spinosaurus actually look like? Sorry, I thought I heard something. Spinosaurus is a pretty tricky one. I will say that probably one of the best interpretations of Spinosaurus in recent years is probably the new Walking with Dinosaurs Spinosaurus. I forget what is it Sobek? I think they named that Spinosaurus. Very good design. It's not dragging its tail. It's got the short legs. It's got the powerful arms. It's got the crest. It's got the sail. It's got the really, really cool paddle-like tail, stuff like that, and it looks amazing. Now, again, for a refresher, for those that don't know, Spinosaurus lived in a place, in very swampy, marshy places that did not preserve fossils very well. So a lot of our specimens of Spinosaurus do come out to be fragmentary. So we don't have a lot of them. And we used to reconstruct Spinosaurus based off of phylogenetic bracketing using things like Baryonyx and Suchomimus as reference, which is why the older depictions of Spinosaurus from like Planet Dinosaur or 2001's Jurassic Park, that's why those designs look a lot more like Baryonyx or Suchomimus that have just been blown up and put a sail on their back, because that's how we were reconstructing it back then. So yeah. Opinion on Valleybon Vedatrix. Super cool Spinosaurid. It's probably one of the most well-complete Spinosaurids that we have. I believe, much like other Spinosaurids, it was... I forget exactly when it lived, unfortunately, but I know it was... I want to say Europe? I want to say it was in Europe. I don't know. Or no. No, I'm going to stick with the Europe answer. But yeah, it's a really cool Spinosaurid. It's on the smaller end. So yeah, but, you know, really cool stuff. You know, anything that we can get out of Spinosaurids is just a miracle in and of itself, you know? But yeah. Utahraptor and Troodon, my favorite dinosaurs. Well, you are in luck, my friend, as Troodon might be valid again. So there's a few researchers who believe that Troodon and another dinosaur called Stenonychosaurus are actually synonymous with each other, so like they're the same animal. And if that is the case, the senior name would be taken, and the senior name in this case would be Troodon. So Troodon may or may not be back. So they're currently trying to identify a neotype. So yeah. Thank you, Gold Titan, for all the gifts. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, Justin, for the 7 tiny dinies, and thank you, Jago Lantern, for the roses and the lightning bolts. I appreciate it. What is my favorite Spinosauridae? That is hard. I've never really thought about it. I'll be honest with you. I might go with Irritator, just because of how funny the story is. Of like how it got its name. I'm gonna go with Irritator. I am actually going to change my model really quickly. Let's see, what models do we have? Oh yeah, let's go with Plateosaurus. These guys are funky. If you've never seen early sauropods, that's what these guys are. These guys are what sauropods looked like in the Triassic and early Jurassic. These guys are strange. But yeah. Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus is super cool. In my opinion, it lived late Cretaceous of North America. It would have lived alongside animals like Edmontosaurus, Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Archaeoraptor, the local, there was also Denversaurus, local troodontid population as well, possibly Dakota Raptor if it's valid, but the common belief right now is that Dakota Raptor is a chimera, so it might not exist. But yeah, they were super cool. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that instead of using their club tails as weapons against predators, they were more than likely using those club tails against each other. There is a specimen of an ankylosaurid called Zool, and Zool has pieces of its armor that have seemingly been crushed by something, and the common belief is that they were broken by the tail club of another ankylosaurid. So yeah, and it would make sense. Weapons don't typically evolve in animals to fight off of predators. They can be used to fight off predators, but typically they will evolve more as competition between other members of their species. So yeah. Is it true that Archaeopteryx helped prove Darwin's theory of evolution? It definitely helped. The Archaeopteryx, or like the German Archaeopteryx specimen that had like all the feathers that were like articulated onto the specimen, it definitely helped prove that a little bit. I would say it definitely gave credibility to the idea, because not only was this a dinosaur, but it kind of showed that, hey, so this is also a bird because it has feathers. Though technically Archaeopteryx isn't really a bird in the traditional sense. It has a lot of other things that don't, you know, but it definitely gave credibility to the idea. I will definitely say that. But yeah, Painon Diplodocus, super cool. Super cool stuff. We used to think it held its head lower than like kind of in a grazing kind of stance. But we know now that their heads were probably held up a little high like this. Actually, wait, do I have skins for this guy? Oh, I do. Okay, I kind of like this skin. We're gonna stick with this for a while. But yeah, when's Ark 2 coming out? I don't know. I haven't played Ark in ages. I played Ark a lot back in like middle school and high school. I'm gonna blow some people's minds in here. Yeah, I'm only 20 years old, so I'm not very old. My 21st birthday is in July. I'll be streaming then, by the way, if y'all want to come hang out on my birthday. So, yeah. Favorite dinosaur? My favorite dinosaur is Nanoxaurus hoglundi or Hoglundi. Really cool tyrannosaur from Alaska. It is my personal favorite. What's the VR chat map? This is immersive classroom that we're sitting in. I've got hair on my face. But yeah. Let's be honest, Spinosaurus would beat T-Rex. I don't want to hear your opinions. Yeah, no. No. So I don't like to weigh in on fights because I think it's like a very overused kind of metric, but no. There's not a lot of theropods that can put up a good fight against T-Rex. That's not saying T-Rex is unbeatable. T-Rex lived with 3 herbivores that would quite easily put it in the ground. And Kylosaurus, Edmontosaurus, and Triceratops could very easily put a T-Rex in the ground if it wasn't careful enough. In terms of like other large theropods, though, there's not a whole lot that can like put up a good fight. But then like you start comparing to sauropods, dude. Sauropods would crush, like literally just step on a T-Rex and it's gone. It like, oh, okay, there it goes. All right, I'm gonna go about the rest of my day now. So yeah. Yeah. Is Saurophaganax a theropod or a sauropod? So Saurophaganax was classified as a chimera a few months ago. I think it was like half a year ago now, or just about. And what that means is that the original material used to describe Saurophaganax was determined to be material from 2 different animals. One of the material, or half of the material, was found to be sauropod, and the other half of the material was found to be theropod material. So since the sauropod material, since it was unique and was kind of used as like the name-bearing part of the specimen, that got to keep the name Saurophaganax maximus. Whereas the rest of the material, which was theropod material, got classified as Allosaurus because we already knew that Saurophaganax was an allosaurid of some kind. So it just, made sense that it would be a new Allosaurus. And without those like morphologically different structures for material, it was kind of roped in with the rest of the Allosaurus genus. Now, here's the thing. A lot of paleontologists, some paleontologists, even some here on TikTok, actually disagree with this idea. They disagree with the notion that Saurophaganax is actually a chimera. And here's the thing about paleontology. People are going to disagree on almost everything. There are people who believe Nanotyrannus is still valid, while the wider community thinks it isn't. There are people who think T-Rex had, like, a ton of plumage when realistically it probably shouldn't have had that. And there will be people who believe that Saurophaganax is and isn't valid. So that's kind of up for debate right now. As of right now, though, Saurophaganax is kind of a sauropod. Hasn't been officially described yet, I don't believe. But yeah. What did Iguanodon use its thumb claw for? Probably interspecific combat. They were probably going to rear up on their hind limbs and start fighting each other. It doesn't make sense for Iguanodon to use those thumb spikes against predators, because if you look at their anatomy, if they wanted to use those thumb spikes against predators, they would have to get alarmingly close to the predator. And they would also have to put their head where the carnivore's head is. So they're probably not going to do that. So they would more than likely use it against each other more than they would against carnivores. That's not saying that they couldn't use them against carnivores. I could definitely see a way that they could be used that way, but it was probably not a very often occurrence. But yeah. Who is the largest herbivore? In terms of weight, it is possibly Argentinosaurus, Dreadnoughtus, Patagotitan, Brachiosaurus, and I think there's a handful of other sauropods that are likely the largest. That is in terms of weight. In terms of length, it is Supersaurus. In terms of height, it is Sauroposeidon. And thank you, Megan, for the 10 tiny dinies. I appreciate it. It wouldn't win against one. Hold on. Hold on. Let's be honest. Spinosaurus is massive compared to T-Rex, even if it wouldn't win against one. It is big in terms of length, but Spinosaurus is shorter and also lighter. Spinosaurus is long. It is the longest theropod that we know of. And it has that going for it. Spinosaurus, because height is measured in how high off the ground the hip is, that's why when a lot of people say it was this many feet tall at the hip, they specify at the hip because that's where you measure height when it comes to certain animals. There are others that you would measure at the shoulders and stuff like that. Like we measure horses by like where their shoulder is, not where their head is. So Spinosaurus is shorter but longer and lighter than T-Rex. T-Rex gets the bulkiness and stuff like that. Any Therizino facts? So Therizinosaurus is a really freaky herbivorous dinosaur from the late Cretaceous of what is now Mongolia in what is called the Nemegt Formation. Therizinosaurus has the largest claws of any dinosaur, or actually, hold on, I take that back. The largest claws of any animal that has ever existed that we know of so far. The claws can measure between 2.5 to 3 feet long. I have one IRL. It's super cool. It is sitting on the table about 7 feet in front of me. And it is really interesting. Now, you would think with claws that are that big, hey, these are going to be insane weapons, but they're not, actually. Analyzations of the Therizinosaurus's claws show that they are structurally kind of weak, meaning they didn't have a whole lot of... it wasn't a great weapon, is what I'm trying to say. But in reality, they would likely be used for two things. They would be used as a utility, kind of like how giant sloths would reach up into trees and they'd pull branches down with their claws, likely do that. Another way they would probably be used would be for interspecific mating selection. So they would use it for mating selection. So the males could show off their large claws, and whoever had the biggest claws won or something like that. But yeah, can we see the claw? I think if you join my Discord, I believe in the off-topic channel, I do have a pinned photo of my fossil collection, or at least part of my fossil collection, because it has grown since then. But hold on. Thank you, Jonah Brony, for the rose and the heart me, and thank you, Alice, for the tiny diny, and thank you, Megan, for the tiny dinies again. But yeah, what was the dinosaur species that when appeared and later went extinct quick? There was a lot of ones that kind of went out quickly. One that you guys might not know this, but actually, I'm going to ask you guys. Dinosaurs existed. Their dynasty, their reign lasted for about 160 million years, okay? 160 million years. That's insane. It hasn't even been 160 million years since they went extinct. We've got another 100 million to go. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. And I want your honest answers, okay? Out of those 160 million years that they reigned, how long did Tyrannosaurus Rex as a species exist? How many millions of years did they exist? I want to know. I want to see how long people think. 7, 2. That's wow. 10, 50, 7, 7, 7, 2. It's 2 million. 2 million years. Tyrannosaurus Rex existed for 2 million years. It first shows up 68 million years ago, and it goes extinct 66 million years ago with the rest of the non-avian dinosaurs. That's it. That's it. Now, you might think that is like such a short amount of time, but like, when you're looking at it in terms of like their reign as like a dynasty on Earth, as like dinosaurs as a whole, yes, that is pretty short. But let me explain something to you, okay? Two of the most recognizable T-Rex specimens ever are Sue and Scotty. Scotty existed was around the time that T-Rexes were first showing up in North America. So Scotty's old, right? When Sue, who later on appeared in North America. When Sue was walking around, Scotty was already in the ground, fossilized. That sounds like 2 million years sounds like a short amount of time, but that is long. It's nuts. But yeah, it is nuts. What could be the beat Acrovinator, like a herbivore, or it could beat Arcovinator? I forgive my ignorance. Hold on. This is. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Have I missed something? Arcovinator. Hold on. Let me see this. Oh, this little guy. An extinct genus of abelosaurid theropods hailing from the late Cretaceous of France, possibly Spain. Wait, hold on. Is this. How much is this guy known from? Is it like a tooth? I don't know. I think there are plenty of herbivores that could put that in the ground. I'm going to be honest with you. It's a pretty small abelosaurid. Large hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, stuff like that. It was, yeah, anything that's like... Actually, hold on. I have a Critops model I haven't used if I wanted to be like a very special about... Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Hello. Hi. How you doing? How you doing? I love how this one looks so chill. Like, what's up? How you doing? But yeah, what do I think of Gigantoraptor? Gigantoraptor is a super cool I believe it's an Oviraptoran from the late Cretaceous of what is now Asia. These guys were huge. They're really cool though. I really like the interpretation that Jurassic World Evolution has for it. If you haven't seen the Gigantoraptor from Jurassic World Evolution 2, you should go take a look at it. Probably one of my favorite interpretations of Gigantoraptor ever. It's super cool. Thank you, Amy, for the heart, me, and the roses, and thank you, Ruby, for the rose as well. But yeah. Any dinosaurs from Japan? There are. Wait a minute. I just wanted to let you know that our curator has determined that S is Dicryodon. Oh, cool. Neat. I don't know too much about that, but yeah, that's cool. Love to hear that, Natural History Museum. Because that might make you angry than the Nanotyrannosaurus stuff. I'm gonna be so real with you, Nat Hiss. I don't know too much about that. That's a little out of my normal scope. But I'll tell you what, I'll get back to you on that. I'll go take a look at it after this. I'll look into it. Then I'll probably DM you if I am genuinely upset about that. Yeah. Do I like Dilophosaurus? Yes. Dilophosaurus is really cool and does not get nearly as much credit as it should. Dilophosaurus, you might be more familiar with the Jurassic Park interpretation of it, or a large majority of you might be more familiar with the Jurassic Park interpretation of it. Let me tell you something. One, they did not spit venom. No, they probably did not have neck frills either. You know what they were? They were huge. Oh my God, they were so much bigger than the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park interpretation of them. Because literally, you would have to crane your neck up to look at them. Like if they would look down at you. Probably look down on the average person for like exceptional for larger individuals, of course. Dilophosaurus was one of the largest theropods of its time, and it does not get nearly enough credit as it should. And in fact, here's the thing about Dilophosaurus that I think is really cool. They are found with a lot of injuries. Like, one specimen of Dilophosaurus had a ton of injuries in its hand. Injuries that it sustained during life, right? So this isn't like the rock eroding part of the bone and stuff like that. Like, there was one that I think had, like, several fingers, like 2 of its fingers on its hand paralyzed. Meaning these guys were using their arms a lot when hunting. And probably against each other as well. So probably the scariest thing about Dilophosaurus is that if it was hunting you, you're not getting a quick end. That thing's going to hold you down best as it can, and it's just going to tear chunks. You remember the line in Jurassic Park from Alan Grant, which is, point is, you're alive when they start eating you? That is exactly what would happen. So Carnotaurus is really cool. Carnotaurus is second or third largest abelosaurid that we know of. And it's really cool. So funnily enough, we only actually have one specimen of Carnotaurus, but it's one really well preserved specimen, as it preserves everything except for several tail vertebrae and everything below the knee. Yes, dinosaurs have knees. By the way, if you've never noticed this, dinosaurs, their knees aren't backwards. They just walk on their toes. You ever notice that? They just walk on their toes. Their ankle doesn't touch the ground. Like they heel. They don't, that doesn't touch the ground. But Carnotaurus is really cool. The name meaning the meat-eating bull, or the carnivorous bull, if you, depending on like which one you want to say. But there is a lot of ideas on like how it hunted. So one of the initial ideas is that due to its like anatomy and its proportions, that it would be very fast. That's been challenged by a few people. Some think that it would be more of like a burst sprinter. Some think that it could have done long distance sprinting. That's kind of up in the air. And that's like the whole issue with not having the legs. Because we have like everything except for what's below the knee. So a lot of the times you have to use phylogenetic bracketing to get the rest of that. And depending on what you're using as a reference, you get different proportions and stuff like that. So yeah. Do you think Gigantoraptor could kill big theropods? It could definitely get close. I definitely think a large theropod that was around Gigantoraptor would be very cautious. Have you ever seen how cassowaries and emus and ostriches fight? Like, cassowaries will cut you, and they will, like, disembowel you with their feet and their claws. So, imagine that, but it is now as tall as... It's about 12 feet tall now. So I definitely think a large carnivorous theropod would second guess itself if it was going to go after a Gigantoraptor. It would have to be in very good condition to do that. How do you identify 7 groups of dinosaurs and tell them apart from each other? 7 groups. I want to say there's more than that. Oh, we hit our live goal. That's awesome. Thank you, 0XP, for the 15 tiny dinies. We got to our live goal. Thank you very much. So there is there's probably more than that. Like you have the theropods, you have the sauropods, you have the ornithopods, you have the thyreophorans, and so you have a lot of those, and like some of those are on like the same vein as each other, but not all of them. But largely you can tell them apart because of hip structure. So there are 3 basic shapes for dinosaur hip structure. There's theropod, sauropod, and ornithischian. Theropods and sauropods are more closely related to each other than they are to everything else. So they are loped in with the saurischians. Then there's the ornithischians. Ornithischians, so saurischians, theropods and sauropods. Ornithischians, everything else. And they have those basic hip structures. And you'll see variations of those hip structures from other dinosaurs. And that's usually how you can tell them apart. But yeah, that's usually how you do it. And there's also, like, typically you don't have a whole lot of issues with identifying something. Like, if you have good fossil material, you're not going to have, like, a whole lot of issues identifying where it's supposed to go. There are a few examples of that not being the case. Megaraptors have been jumping between being basal Carcharodontosaurids to basal Tyrannosaurs to Coelurosaurs for quite some time. Herarosaurus, we can't figure out if that's like an early theropod or a prosauropod. Ceratosaurs are also strange. They were carnosaurs for a while, but I think they got roped into another group. But that's mostly due to like just a lacking in fossil evidence and stuff like that. So it gets a little tricky sometimes. But yeah. Thoughts on Megalosaurus? Megalosaurus is cool. One of the first dinosaurs ever discovered. Actually, the first dinosaur to ever be named by science in 1824. So it is Megalosaurus' scientific designation. It was over 200 years ago. So it's really cool. Hi, I was wondering who would win, a Giganotosaurus or a T-Rex. Don't know, so I'm asking you. Okay, so again, I don't like talking about dinosaur fights. And typically, the answer I'm going to give you is going to be whoever is heavier. T-Rex is heavier, so it's probably going to win. But there are a lot of other factors you have to think about when it comes to this fight. And that is a difference in anatomy. These are two predators that have completely different hunting styles. They are built for those different hunting styles, and they are going to fight differently because of those hunting styles. Tyrannosaurus Rex will grab, hold, and crush. A Giga is going to bite, tear, and let you bleed, assuming you in this scenario is a sauropod. That is the difference. T-Rex gets a solid bite, probably over. But realistically speaking, if these two somehow, if the Giga time traveled to late Cretaceous North America, like in the Jurassic World Dominion prologue, realistically, they're not touching each other. Because these are massive predators, and predators typically will back down unless it like really means something. So yeah. But yeah. Velociraptors actually smaller than humans or misthought of size? Yes. Velociraptors are around the size of turkeys. Here, actually, hold on. You want to see how big Velociraptor is? Give me 1 second. What's up? I'm down here. Hi. This is how small they are. They are surprisingly small based on their interpretations in popular media. Do you know why they're thought to be larger by the wider public? Because Steven Spielberg decided Velociraptor sounded cooler than Deinonychus. Deinonychus was the actual raptor that the Jurassic Park raptors were designed off of. So, yeah. And I mean, like, even for Deinonychus, like, here, hold on, I'll show you Deinonychus. Give it a second, hold on. Like, even Deinonychus is pretty small, right? So there's a lot of people who are like, oh, well, you know, maybe they just use Utah Raptor. That's not true either. You want to know why? Because Utah Raptor wasn't found until a few weeks after or a few weeks before the movie came out, so they couldn't have been designed after that. The Jurassic Park raptors are actually more close in size to a Mongolian raptor by the name of a kilobator. So, yeah. Do you have a podcast? I do have a podcast. I have a podcast with my friends Dino Guy. You've probably, if you're here in my chat, you have definitely seen Dino Guy. He's the guy that talks about dinosaurs, and he has the white cowboy hat. I have a podcast with him and our friend Paleo Pizza. He does builds on Jurassic World Evolution 2, as well as Planet Zoo and Prehistoric Kingdom and all that stuff. Definitely go recommend him if you play any of those games. He has some great enclosure builds you should check out. So yeah, opinions on Suchomimus, really cool. Really cool Spinosaurid. Does not get enough attention in my opinion. I'm really glad they put it in Chaos Theory. That was a great interpretation of Suchomimus. A lot better than the Spinosaurus interpretation. A lot better than the Baryonyx interpretation as well. So yeah. Again, but have you ever watched Primeval? I have. I've seen snippets of it. I've never sat down and watched the entire thing, but I have seen it. I have seen like the Smilodon, the Inostrancevia, or the Gorgonopsid. There's like the future predator. Let me tell you, that Giga, the Giga in that show, first off, why is it that big? That's crazy. Why is it that big? Secondly, why does it look like that? But yeah, anyway, super cool though. The one dinosaur that was like all the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, would humans kill it? I think if you brought back dinosaurs in general, humans would probably trophy hunt. We have a fondness for driving large animals to extinction. The mammoth, there was like most of the North American megafauna as well during the Ice Age. And a lot of that also went hand in hand with the warming climate back then as well. But human interaction did not help that at all. In fact, it probably sped that up quite a bit. So yeah, rip dodo. Well, dodos only went extinct like a few hundred years ago. So yeah. Oh, and TikTok thinks I'm AFK. Great. That is my notification that we've been live for over an hour now, or just about. Opinions on Shantungosaurus. Funnily enough, Shantungosaurus is the largest dinosaur that is not a sauropod. It is the largest non-sauropod dinosaur. And it is a hefty boy. Shantungosaurus is from the late Cretaceous of what is now Asia. And where you find large hadrosaurs, you will find large carnivores. So the natural predator of Shantungosaurus was Zhucheng tyrannus. Zhucheng tyrannus, there's not a whole lot known about Zhucheng, but it is a very large tyrannosaur that we know. Now, what does Zhucheng primarily target Shantungosaurus? Maybe, but they would not target healthy adults, okay? In nature, animals will target things that are younger, older, weaker, injured, or sick, right? I guess those two could fall under weaker. But so if and that goes with most things. Like even T-Rex would probably hesitate to go after a fully grown Edmontosaurus annectens. So they would target the younger ones, the older ones, the sick ones, and stuff like that. Because like I cannot see a Zhucheng tyrannus fighting a fully grown Shant. That is a death sentence. But they are really cool though. Thoughts on Yichi? I think Yichi is super cool, and if you've seen the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer, or especially the second one, if you've seen the Mutadons in that trailer, that's kind of what Yichi looked like. Not really. Like, they weren't that big. They were like the size of a cardinal, like a small sparrow-like, bird-like dinosaur. But what I mean by that is that Yichi, instead of having feathered wings, actually had a winged membrane, like bats and pterosaurs and stuff like that. And it's really cool, really unique, and I think it's a really rad dinosaur in my opinion. So, yeah. Favorite herbivorous dinosaur and why? Triceratops prorsus, because it was the first dinosaur that I ever got to help with the excavation of. I helped with the excavation of a rib cage from a Triceratops, as well as a quarter of a skull from the Hell Creek Formation all the way back in 2018. I was 14 years old, which is in 2018 when I did that, and it was probably one of the coolest things that I ever got to do. And I can't wait to do more of that, and it's super awesome. But yeah. And thank you, Ghoul, for the heart me and the meteor shower. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Boog56, for the heart me as well. I appreciate that. Opinion on Acrocanthosaurus and Giraffatitan. Giraffatitan's really cool. For the longest time, our interpretations of Brachiosaurus were, at least in terms of the skull, based on Giraffatitan. So, if you didn't know, by the time they were making Jurassic Park, we didn't actually have the skull of Brachiosaurus. I do believe we have the skull of Brachiosaurus now, but back then, how they reconstructed Brachiosaurus was using its closest cousin, which was Giraffatitan. So, most of the time that you have seen Brachiosaurus, you have seen Giraffatitan. You've actually been looking at a Giraffatitan. Now, in terms of Acrocanthosaurus is super cool. It is the second largest genus of carnivore from North America. Specifically from North America. It's not like the second largest carnivore ever. But Acro is really cool. It was early Cretaceous North America. Would have been hunting things like sauropods and stuff like that. There's a misconception, and I want to say that this misconception comes from the book Raptor Red, that Utah Raptor and Acrocanthosaurus lived alongside each other. That is not the case. Utah Raptor and Acrocanthosaurus did not coexist with each other. Utah Raptor had kind of already gone extinct by the time Acrocanthosaurus shows up in North America. They do both come from the same formation, but they appear in different levels of the soil, so they did not coexist. But yeah, and thank you, Royal Queen Bee, for the rose, and thank you, Kanatai Goth. I'm so scared I'm saying that wrong, for the 70 tiny dinies. Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But yeah. Do I have a Suchomimus avatar? I think I do. Give me 1 second. Do you ever think that there is a chance for Jurassic Park World in real life in the future? Not the same way that it happened in the movies. In the movies, they were able to actually get actual genetic information from the amber, right? So we can't do that, as DNA has a half-life of about 6+ million years. So we can't actually do that. Now, you could genetically manipulate a modern bird to look like a non-avian dinosaur. But if you do that, you are not making a non-avian dinosaur. You have genetically modified a chicken, right? So you're not making anything that actually existed. You're just making a new dinosaur that you're passing off as like, oh, look, it's a non-even dinosaur. It's a velociraptor, when really it's a genetically modified chicken. So, and I know what people are going to say, right? Because this happened with the direwolf stuff, right? Because people are going to say, well, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? That is simply not the case. There is a lot more that goes into this in terms of genetics. For example, those direwolves, not direwolves. They are genetically modified gray wolves. That's what they are, because they use the genome as the gray wolf as a basis, even though the direwolf was not itself a wolf. It is not Canis dirus. The real direwolf was Anocyon dirus, and these new ones are Canis lupus dirus. So yeah. And whoa! Thank you, Ghoul, for the future city. Whoa! Thank you, Ghoul, for the 147 tiny. Oh my god! Thank you so much. Is it true that Rex lived closer to our time than Stegosaurus' time? Yes, it is. There's about 90 million years that separates. Or wait, hold on. Let me see. The 66. No, it's closer to 80. There's around 80 million years that separates Stegosaurus and T-Rex, and there's 66 million years that separates us from T-Rex. So, yes, T-Rex lived closer to us than it did to Stegosaurus, at least on a timeline scale, Are you self-taught or formally educated? A little bit of both. I have gone on expeditions. I've volunteered at museums in the past as well, so I've done this like whole spiel sometimes. I also did like animal shelters for a while before that. That was not bad, just kind of gross. It's like animals and stuff like that. But I love animals. But I've gone on expeditions. I've done that. I was going to college for it originally, but I had to leave due to some personal matters that I'm not going to get into. Probably won't ever get into. But everything else was like, my mom's a science teacher. My dad was a historian. So I got kind of the best of both worlds. I took the science, the history, ended up with dead reptiles. Yeah. And then the rest of that is from books and stuff like that. And I keep up to date with like Nat Geo and like all fossil expeditions. So it's a lot of fun. And whoa! Oh my God. Whoa. Thank you, Ghoul, for the meteor shower and the 4 galaxies. Oh my god. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That is crazy. Thank you so much. Man, my favorite dinosaur is Nanooksaurus hoglundi. It is a medium-sized tyrannosaur from Alaska. It is really cool. Yeah. Thank you, Ghoul, so much. You're awesome. Give me a tooth real quick. I cannot offer you a tooth. You know what I can offer you, though? You know what I can offer you? Where is it? Yes. Yes. I can't give you a tooth. What I can give you is an egg. Would you like an egg? Have an egg. Take the egg. But yeah. Do you think the ocean was safer than land? That's hard to say. Cause like, you know what's funny? If you go into the ocean 66 million years ago, right? One of the deadliest oceans or seaways in the world was something called the Western Interior Seaway. The Western Interior Seaway was what a lot of marine reptiles at the time called home. So you have multiple species of Mosasaurus and Tylosaurus in there. There's several species of Tylosaurus as well. But you know who else you would find in the Western Interior Seaway? You know who else you'd find kicking around in there? Sharks. Because you can't have Earth without sharks. You find them everywhere. So yeah. Show us what Utah Raptor looks like. Yeah. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'll switch to Utah Raptor in a second. Is it true T-Rexes were more bird-like than we thought prior? So T-Rex and birds are both theropods. And that's why they have similar leg anatomy. But I would not say that T-Rex is more bird-like. I would say it would have attributes that you would see as bird-like. It, like, when it walked, it probably like bobbed its head, especially if it was like strutting, you know. So you would have that, but everything else would be very different. I often say when people ask me if T-Rex has feathers, I say yes, but T-Rex was about as feathered as an elephant is hairy. Right? And that is to say that they had feathers, but they did not have a lot of them. They were sparse, right? So actually, let me show you. So this is Utah Raptor, by the way. So this is what Utah Raptor looked like. If you hang around, I will show you a few other examples and stuff like that. Thank you, Biggie Cheese, for the Tiny Dinos. Thank you, Bugsy Gambles, for the goats. I appreciate it. And thank you, a Gold Titan, for the promo. You're awesome. Thank you so much. You are awesome. Love you, man. Is T-Rex lizard hipped? Yeah, actually. So a lot of you might be confused because I have said in the past, hey, dinosaurs aren't lizards. And yes, that is true. But the two main families, or the two main groups of dinosaurs are the Ornithischians and the Saurischians. Saurischian means lizard hipped. Ornithischian means bird hipped. Guess what lineage we get birds from? It's not the bird hipped ones. And so the lizard hip dinosaurs are what we get birds from. Now, a lot of you are probably going to say, why? Why do we name them this way? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because scientists and paleontologists have a tendency to name things before we fully understand them, because that's kind of how that works, right? When you want to have an open discussion with other scientists, you usually have to give something a name. So you give it a name and then you talk about it. When this happens and they find out, so not even just that, but like megaraptors are not raptors. So why don't we change them? Well, when you give something a name, it stays that way until you can find a taxonomic reason for why you should change it, which isn't really going to happen with the names of Saurischian and Ornithischian. Then you can change it. But until then, you don't change it. It stays the same, and you're stuck with it. So, yeah. And Ghoul again with another meteor shower and galaxy. Man, I've something tells me I gotta end stream, or you're just gonna drain your wallet, man. I feel like I've gotta. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, man. But yeah. Do you think herbivores were more dangerous than carnivores? Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Not just based off of behavior, but like, yeah, carnivores have the massive jaws. They have the teeth. You know what the herbivores have? They've got horns. They've got spikes. They've got club tails. They've got legs the size of a school bus. They will impale you. They will crush you. They will slam you into trees. Size alone is insane. Herbivores are much more dangerous than carnivores in some instances. Thoughts on the Koolasuchus and Caprosuchus? Well, I'm actually really glad you mentioned Caprosuchus. I have been waiting for someone to mention Caprosuchus, because you know what I found? You know what I picked up today? Ooh, I found a Caprosuchus bottle! So yeah, Caprosuchus is really cool. Koolasuchus is also really cool. Koolasuchus is an amphibian. Caprosuchus is a crocodiliform. Its name means the boar croc. It's named for these big teeth in the front of its mouth that resemble boar tusks. And these guys are awesome. But these guys lived in like the early part of the late Cretaceous in what is now northern Africa, and these guys are super cool. What sets these guys apart from other crocodilians is actually the same thing that sets Cuban crocodiles apart from other modern crocodilians, which is the fact instead of having their legs sprawled out out to the side, they actually hold their limbs underneath them. That's why they're raised off the ground like this, and I think that is super cool. And here, Oh man, it's just so cool. Ah man. All right, hold on. We're gonna switch back to Wayho, Venator. Wait, give it a second. Okay, hold on. Okay, why is this taking? Ah, there we go. There we go. My Megalosaurid's back. And I look away for 1 second, and I got 3 more galaxies from Ghoul. Oh my god! Thank you so much, man. I have 2 questions. Is you have to Interstransevia talk about? I can talk about Interstransevia. You know why? And we're gonna do this again because guess what I found? Because guess what I found? I found an Inostransevia model. So Inostransevia is a synapsid from the Permian. And these guys are super cool. Spinosaurus lived in northern Africa, or what is now northern Africa. And Inostransevia is a synapsid. It is specifically a gorgonopsid synapsid. And I have something really cool to tell you. This guy, what you're looking at right here, probably, or actually, no, not probably, is more closely related to you than it is to any dinosaur, as synapsids were the precursors to what we call mammals. And these guys are cool. Their heyday was before the dinosaurs in a time period called the Permian. So these guys predate dinosaurs, and they are super cool. And I just think they're so rad. But yeah, and then Kanatai Goth with the 6 tiny dinies again. Thank you so much. But yeah. Thoughts on Indoraptor. Okay. So I've said this before. I'm gonna say it again. Okay. This is not a critique of the franchise. This is not me hating. It's a cool design. All right. I've even got an Indoraptor figure sitting on the shelf behind me. Okay. But Indoraptor was pointless. Not only narratively, but as an animal. Narratively, you want like the biological weapon, right? Like they show the laser on it and like it points at the guy and he runs out of like at that point you've already got like a gun on the guy. Why not just, do that? But also Indoraptor kind of actually existed though. They're called Megaraptor. They weren't quadrupedal like the Indoraptor is. Indoraptor is like primarily like it can switch between bipedalism and quadrupedalism. But like here, let me show you something. Let me show you something. You could have replaced the Indoraptor with a Megaraptor, and it would have changed little to nothing. Like, look, it's already got the colors. It would have changed very, very little. But yeah, have I played Ark? I did, yes. It is really fun. I played it a lot in high school and middle school. Iguanodon thoughts. Iguanodon's super cool. Probably one of my favorite herbivores. It was the second dinosaur ever discovered. It was, or ever to be classified. It was classified in 1826. You know what's really funny? Iguanodon, the current Iguanodon, is not actually that old. What I mean by that is that the material used to describe Iguanodon in 1826 turned out to not actually be Iguanodon. Instead, it was a different genus of dinosaur. I forget what specifically it was, but Iguanodon was later reclassified under a new neotype back in like what was it? Was it like the late 1800s, somewhere around there? But yeah, it's pretty neat, pretty cool herbivore. But yeah, and thank you, Nick, for the rose. I appreciate it. Do I think Gigantoraptor win against a Giga? Probably not. I think a Giga would like maybe second guess itself, but like if we're doing like fight to the death, then no, probably not. It like realistically, in a realistic scenario, I definitely think a Gigantoraptor could scare off a Giga, especially like a subadult Giga. It could like very easily intimidate that, but maybe not a fully grown one. Spinosaurus lived in northern Africa. Thoughts on pterosaurs? Pterosaurs are awesome. They're not dinosaurs, but they are closer to dinosaurs phylogenetically than crocodilians are, but they themselves are not dinosaurs. They are a separate branch. But I can tell you that the last common ancestor between dinosaurs and pterosaurs likely had something called dino fuzz or proto-feathers or something like that, because you find feather-like structures on both dinosaurs and pterosaurs. In pterosaurs, they're called pycnofibers, but they are kind of just feathers. So, you can call them pycnofibers if you want, or you can call them just outright feathers. But yeah. Who will win, Anki or Stego? I'm kind of up in the air. I want to say Anki, but, name a dinosaur for an edit. God, that's hard. I guess let's go with Megaraptor. You're free to use Mipe as a stand-in. Since I am a Megaraptor right now, might as well, Tell us about you, Tyrannus. Okay, I will, but this will probably be the last little bit here, and then we'll roll outros, and then I have a few other things I want to say. Okay, you, Tyrannus, is not actually a Tyrannosaurid. It is a Tyrannosauroid, but it is not a part of the family of Tyrannosauridae. It is actually a part of the family of Proceratosauridae. It is the second largest Proceratosaurid, and it is also the largest feathered animal that we know of. And we have, or sorry, let me rephrase that, because that'll get a lot of people confused. It is the largest animal that has evidence for feathering. Feathers are thought to be on larger animals, such as Deinocheirus, Stegosaurus, Therizinosaurus, Deinocheirus, Therizinosaurus, very sparse featheration on like things like T-Rex and stuff like that, but they do not have evidence for that as of right now. They're mostly reconstructed with feathers due to phylogenetic bracketing, like how we reconstruct other animals and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, Eutyrannus is really cool. It lived in the early Cretaceous of what is now China. The area it lived in was frequent to colder temperatures, irregular volcanic eruptions, as well as snowfall, which is pretty cool. And oh my god, I look away and Ghoul sends another 3 galaxies. Jesus, man. I don't know how you do it. I'm really not deserving of all of this stuff, but I really appreciate you, man. You're awesome. Thank you so much. That is, wow. Okay. Styracosaurus. Styracosaurus is a really cool Centrosaurian ceratopsian. From the late Cretaceous, around 75 million years ago. If you are a fan of Styracosaurus, I recommend you go watch an animated short film over on YouTube called The Old Buck. It is a really cool animation film. I definitely recommend all of Dinosauria, in all honesty. Okay, so with everything said and done, I am going to dismiss class here. If I have not answered your questions, I do apologize. I know I look like a Megaraptor, but I am only human underneath this. And okay, just making sure my VOD's still rolling. If I have missed your question, I do apologize. You are free to go into the comment section of my most recent videos. You can ask them there. I'll get to you as soon as I can. Or you can join the community Discord with the link in my bio. The link is weird, and I don't know why it is, but if you click on the link, it might not open it. So you have to open the link in a browser. I don't know why. It just does that. But you're free to do that. We have a whole channel in the Discord all about asking me questions, and I'll get to you as soon as I can. With all that said and done, I'd like to thank everyone who stayed with us for the entire stream. Thank you everyone who liked, shared, commented, and followed. These streams are nothing without you guys, and I appreciate every single one of you for attending, no matter for how long. And a very big special thanks to everyone who gifted. Everyone who gifts is literally amazing. I love you guys, and like it's genuinely astonishing that people care this much about my hyperfixations and stuff like that. And yeah, I really do appreciate that. With all of that said and done, this is officially class dismissed. I am going to say one other thing, but if you've come just for Dino class, then this is officially class dismissed, and you can I will let you go. So a few things. Summer is coming up, and if you did not know, my summer stream schedule is going to be a little different. As of right now, we are streaming Dino Class on Fridays and Saturdays at around 2 p.m. Central Time. And we do irregular gaming streams, usually on the weekdays, somewhere around Mondays and Tuesdays, with me not really doing much on... I'm recording the podcast on Sundays, and I have an off day on Thursdays for personal reasons, and Wednesdays I'm usually editing videos. Summer stream schedule is going to be a bit different. Wednesdays are going to become a Dino Class So you're going to see Dino classes on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays now, or coming up in the next few weeks. As well as I'm going to be trying to stream from Streamlabs OBS. So the stream itself might actually look very different in the future. So be prepared for that. So yeah, that is it. That is all of us, and thank you, number one Dodo lover, for all of that. For the your awesome crown, or for the your oh, that's a cat. I thought it was a crown. Dog, I'm blind. All right. Anyway, with all that said and done, this is officially stream over. I've already dismissed class. You guys have a great rest of y'all's day, and I'll see you again tomorrow for another Dino class at around this same time at around 2 p.m. Central Time. If we have any more technical difficulties like we did today, I'll let you know through my TikTok thoughts. So you guys have a great rest of y'all's day. I will catch you all later. Bye-bye!